Good morning. So today, after we had the 8 foot almost snowfall over Thanksgiving here, we're talking 2023, wanted to go over the winterization tips, partly because I got called from a couple of my clients. One's a seller, one's a buyer right now. So from both sides, I got it based on the lovely snowfall that we got. So one is, let's go with the seller. The seller is somebody that doesn't live in town. Sister passed away. She's selling her house. So they just left here and they had to go through some weather to get to where they live. So she had called up because I was letting her know that we were at the house, and I was checking on the temperature of and she's like, well, make sure it's warm enough. And it was at 60 degrees. I couldn't figure out how to get it a little bit lower. A lot of times I see keeping it at 55 degrees seems to be a number that people keep it at, just to make sure, again, that pipes don't freeze, because last thing you want when you're selling a house that's vacant or buying a house, for pipes to freeze and to break and to have leaking issues. On the other hand, my buyer, we're set to close next week. He reached out a couple times. He was really concerned. In this case, though, the seller, they don't live there anymore, but they still go back to it. And so I said, well, typically the listing agent should be on top of this in the seller. So contacted for him the listing agent just to make sure. I contacted our inspector to make sure he had put it back to, and he had mentioned he had put it back to whatever the temperature was. And then listing agent did say that the seller had been just back there, was working on some outside stuff, and increased the heat a little bit as well, and kept the cupboards open. So I wanted to go through this little chart. I just pulled up something on the internet. Let's thank Lee's Summit, Missouri. Lee Summit's a favorite of mine because my uncle used to own a lake house there, and so love Lee Summit. Anyway, back to it. And speaking of that, yeah, he would say on the lake when it got frozen over, they'd watch the one guy that was really lake savvy and knowledgeable. He had the less desirable house on the lake, but he loved lake stuff. So whenever he would walk out on the frozen lake, they knew it was safe to go out on. Anyway, a side note, I digress. Anyway, so back to it was just related to winterization. So, and so on this case, so yeah, just kind of double checked with him. And it's funny because this particular house had definitely had the cabinets open. In fact, I was just there yesterday, going through for another reason. And the cabinet doors were open just to get, I guess it's the heat, the warmth. And so if we look at this and just kind of looking at these two scenarios. So before the cold weather, saying locate and exercise the main water shut off valve. So just know where the main water shut off valve is. Then winterize your sprinklers and unhook hoses from outside spigots. So the other reason I thought to do this video was because I literally drove up to our company the other day, worked from there in the mornings, and the next door company basically had their sprinklers on, watering the snow. So of course I had to take a video of it, put it on social media and say, is this really necessary? But yeah, they were, sprinklers were going full blast. And yeah, again, we had like 7.8 inches of snow. I think the most since 1955, Facebook told me, whatever source that is. So then down here you go, when the temps go below freezing as they were, let the water trickle to keep it moving is one thing to do. Leave the cabinet doors open for warm air circulation. That's what I told you that this particular seller I had got the buyers, but this seller had done. And then insulate pipes and faucets in unheated areas. I know another house I had in the past, in the basement, wasn't heated and cooled. So, definitely they had insulated the pipes down there and some faucets because there was a laundry faucet down there. If your pipes freeze, shut off the water immediately. That goes back to this. Find out where the shutoff valve is, know where it is. Safely thaw the pipes with warm water or call a plumber. Be cautious when turning the water back on. So yeah, just wanted to go over because we had our first snowfall, first freeze, and of course it was a doozy, being 7.8 inches. That was over Thanksgiving. Of course, it has to be the weekend my brother comes into town, drives into town, and then the day after that, he drove home. He did make it all in one trip, shockingly. It was a very slow start, he said, but was able to get up to 70 and 80 miles per hour and did make it back to Denver. So I think it took him about 9 hours. Typically takes maybe a 7.5 hour drive. But I will say the video we got, and it's just gorgeous. And then the pictures, were just amazing. So it was kind of fun. And it has, I looked at today, it's, this is a couple days later. snow's already gone away. So anyway, if you're buying or selling in a cold environment, make sure to do all these fun things. Again, I had several clients reach out to me as the huge snowstorm hit. I'm just kind of wanted to pass along to you. If you have any more questions on this, give me a holler. Karen Wright, your local Wichita real estate agent in Wichita, Kansas. Have a great day.